Hello there, Tottenham fans. I bet you're all still buzzing that we got Fernandes over the line. The anxiety has now lifted from my shoulders, and Spurs have got this player over the line, smashing our transfer record fee. And I just heard news today. I think he might be on around 270k per week. So we've smashed our wages fee too, which I said in previous videos would happen, and I was proven right, which is absolutely amazing for me and amazing for you guys, because Spurs are finally acting like a big club. Now, in the next 48 hours is my prediction. It could be sooner, it could be a little bit longer, depends on how it goes. But the way I see it, logically, in the next 48 hours, I can see either Sandro Tonali signing for Spurs, and if he doesn't, it's because somebody else has come in. But I do honestly believe that Sandro Tonali will be a Tottenham player in the next 48 hours. And that means Spurs would smash their transfer record again and probably smash their wages record again, all in the space of a few days. Spurs are now acting like a big club. Now, I've just seen rival fans, I'd say rival fans, but Newcastle fans, Villa fans, all now complaining that how can Spurs finish 17th and be allowed to spend that much money and not be in trouble? Spurs have spent massive. All the other clubs seem to think it's unfair. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. All I heard last season from these same fans, Newcastle fans, Villa fans, were saying Spurs were not a big six club. They were not. Newcastle and Villa were above Spurs in the big six conversation. That's what I heard all season, especially when Spurs were close to getting relegated. Now, all I'm saying is Newcastle having to sell their players and Aston Villa having to sell to buy. Not very big six club, are you now? You know, I'm getting so much stick from these fans thinking they were bigger than they were. Aston Villa and Newcastle were in the Championship not so long ago. Aston Villa more recently. You know, I didn't even mind both these clubs. I thought both clubs were doing really well for what they have. Newcastle thought they were going to come in with their billions and spend it all. But with these rules, you have to understand it's what you earn, what you can spend. You can't just spend billions. If this was Chelsea and Manchester City's fault, the reason why these rules came in, this has nothing to do with Spurs. Spurs spent years building an infrastructure to lead us to this moment. We went years selling all our best players. Kane is the latest one in 2023. We had to sell Berbatov. We had to sell Carrick. We had to sell all Modric, Bale. We had to sell them all because we couldn't afford to bring players in otherwise. We went 2 consecutive windows without signing a single player as well. We've gone through the hard times. We've built ourselves up for this moment. This is the first time our owners have actually put in millions of pounds to actually back the squad. Before, they were just putting in a maximum of about 5 million a season, which is nothing compared to what we actually need. And now they've actually finally put 200 million in. So people are talking that we finished 17th twice. How can we afford this? First of all, in the first year that we finished 17th, we won the Europa League. And in turn, so we got all the money from the Europa League and won it. And then we got the money for the Champions League as well. Although we finished 17th, we might as well finish 5th because we're earning the same amount as a team that finished 5th. You know, if you include the winning the Europa League and getting Champions League money, you're probably getting more than the team that finished 5th. So that's why we had money that season. The second season that we finished 17th, we had a record amount of concerts and non-football events at our stadium. Of course, that's going to put your revenue back up again. And not only that, didn't we qualify for Champions League again? Yeah, so Spurs, I think, have been in Europe 3 of the last 4 seasons, and people are saying, oh, Spurs finished 17th twice in a row. But they forget that we finished in Europe 3 times in the last 4 years. We're in European football, 2 Champions Leagues and 1 Europa League, by the way. Because remember, Ange finished 5th and got us in the Champions League. No, that didn't happen. But yeah, we did. I know we did somehow. Tottenham are finally acting like a big club, and people are acting like we shouldn't be allowed. It's absolutely nonsense, in my opinion. So are we acting like a big club? You convince... listen to me. Like, I'll show you. I'll show you like what we've been doing. Well, I had a brain fart then. I don't know what I was doing. So this is what Spurs are doing. That's convincing me that we're going to be acting like a big club and we're going to be going, and I'm really confident Tonali will be next. Our wage structure has massively risen. It's upped massively. Porro, Romero, Xavi Simmons came in, Gallagher on high wages now, and now Fernandez has come in and on our record site wages. Our record fee for Fernandez, 85 million. That's a massive change, in my opinion. Acting like a big club. Sign players for the manager. That's acting like a big club. De Zerbi wants the players. They're getting the players. They're doing everything they can to sign these players for De Zerbi. We overpaid for Van Hecker when he had 1 year left on his deal. Daniel Levy said he would never have done that, and Spurs had the pants pulled down. So we still wouldn't have signed Van Hecker. And I know for sure we wouldn't have signed Fernandez if Levy was still in the door. And he's basically admitted that himself. So that's two things that have changed massively. Two signings we definitely wouldn't have got through the door. We signed 2 players before the window even opened. When has that ever happened? We've signed 5 players before it's even July. That's never happened before. So Tottenham are absolutely going crazy on this spending spree at the moment. And we haven't signed any players yet. It's absolutely crazy. We're not even selling before we buy. That's another massive thing we haven't done. We did what it took to beat United to a player. That's very rare Spurs would ever do that. ENIC have injected 200 million. They've, like I said earlier in the video, hardly ever used to inject any money. We're buying correct positions for what De Zerbi wants, so we needed to overhaul that midfield. We really did. You could see at the end of the season, the relegation battle. He didn't trust Bergvall, didn't trust Sarr, didn't trust Gray. He had to play his experienced players like Paulinho and Bentancur and Gallagher. And so he wants quality midfielders in midfield, and that's what Spurs look like they're doing. Still a long way to go with that. I still think we need a left-hand side winger, still need a striker, in my opinion. We may even need a number 10 as well. But that's a lot to ask for, especially if we got Tonali over the line. If we do sign Tonali, we probably break our transfer record again, and we'll probably break our wage structure again. So Spurs, if they get Tonali over the line, which I think will be done in the next 48 hours, I really do think it's going to ramp up now. Now we know what we're paying for Fernandez. Now we know what we've done with Van Hecker. Full focus will be on Tonali, and I can see this really ramping up fast in the next 48 hours. I really can. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's just my prediction. Doesn't mean I'm right. It just means what I think is going to happen. I just think logically, now that other deal's done, we don't have to concentrate on that anymore. The financial window, for the new year is opened up today. So that means Spurs can have a new financial year, which means they can spend big again on Tonali. If the Fernandez deal goes for the last financial year and Tonali goes for this financial year, then Spurs can easily spend again. So it's looking really, really good for Spurs at the moment. They're finally acting like a big club. Rival fans and other fans can say what they want, but they're not understanding the pain that Spurs fans have had to go through for years, selling our best players, not bidding for the top players, buying young potential rather than buying for now. Almost getting relegated because of all the mistakes that our board keep making. No ambition shown by our board for many, many years. And the one summer that the board finally start showing ambition, everyone complains and says, hold on a minute, that's not fair. How can they spend money? I think it's absolute nonsense. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. If you saw Newcastle's spending spree, I just wrote this down earlier. If you saw Newcastle's spending spree, what they were spending, I had a total of it here. Newcastle spent over 263 million in the summer 2025. Just last summer, 263 million. They go, wow, we sold Isaac. Why did you afford 263 million? Isaac went for 125. So for them to complain that it's unfair, it's not our fault that the players you bought were crap. It's not our fault. You've had to sell again to buy this season. You don't make enough money. That's the problem. Spurs make money. It's not Spurs' fault. The Spurs have done this legally. They've built an infrastructure over years to create this. And the part where I said Levy wouldn't have signed those players, That's true. So we wouldn't have got that this year. But if Levy didn't do all his haggling for all those years, then we probably wouldn't have had the SCR ratio that we've got now to be able to buy them now. So in one hand, he shouldn't, he deserves criticism. On one hand, he deserves credit for what he's done to build this up to where it is now. All we needed from our owners was to show ambition. And now they're showing ambition. We're acting like a big club, finally. And Spurs fans are loving it. And if Tonali gets over the line, it's going to be absolute meltdown from rival fans. They're going to have meltdowns, but I don't care because I only care about my fans. I don't care about Spurs fans. I only care about Tottenham. I don't care about all what you lot are moaning about. We didn't go around moaning about Manchester City and Chelsea spending billions and billions every year. Even when Man City were doing that, Pochettino still nearly beat them to a title, still nearly beat Chelsea to a title, you know? So there's other ways of doing it, and Spurs are spending money this summer. And all those people as well that were worried about selling Bergvall and Vuskovic because now we haven't got no youth, and what about the future? Fernandez is only 21. He's levels above Lucas Bergvall, levels above him, and he's a year older. I'm not saying Bergvall can't reach that level. I think in a few years Bergvall may reach that level, but it's not a guaranteed. Fernandez comes in and he's a guaranteed Premier League proven quality player, and he's only 21. So there's our future right there. So let me know in the comments what you think. Are you starting to be convinced that Spurs are acting like a big club? I gave you so many examples of how things have changed. We still got work to do, but I believe that we will do it. Thank you for watching, and come on, you Spurs.